21st of October, Rabbi Lang substituting for Rabbi Levitt, Gomorrah.
Hello, everybody. How are you?
Baruch Hashem.
What do you guys do during your break?
I go to the bathroom, I get coffee, and I talk to my wife.
I had some chocolates. You ever have Ferrero Rocher? I think that's to pronounce it. Rocher? Chocolate?
It's French.
Rocher, you call it? Ferrero Rocher. You enjoy that chocolate? Huh?
I have diabetes. I can't eat chocolate.
You ever had that one when you were younger?
No, it doesn't sound familiar.
Philip or Phil? What do you want to be called?
Phil, it's Phil. Philip is
okay.
formal. I mean, that if I have to sign up for something, that's different.
I only see it says Philip Savrensky over there.
Yeah, well, I know you got to be a little more formal for your official Zoom title for people.
Oh, yeah, okay, all right. So Betsy's not good enough, you're saying? I should change it to, what should I change it to, Benny? Benny Lang?
No, it's actually Ben Sion.
It's Ben Sion. That's my Jewish name, yeah. That's my
Bensi is fine.
Betsy is fine. All right, you like Betsy? All right. Listen, I'm a Betsy. That's what I am. I'm not a strip formal guy. Anyway, I had these chocolate. I paid it. It's crazy. I'm telling you, I went to the store here in Telstone. It comes in like a pyramid. These like balls of chocolate. You've had these, Phil, right? Ferrero Rocher.
Yeah.
It's not that good. I don't know. It's overhyped. I don't know. It came in a fancy pyramid, each individually wrapped. What?
They're always individually wrapped, but they come in different sizes. The pyramid is a certain size that's more. It's a bigger size. They sell smaller sizes than that also. They make an ice cream out of it also.
Yeah, the ice cream is how I became familiar with it. And but it's a chocolate. It wasn't that good. I don't know. I think it's a little overhyped. I put some waffles in there, some hazelnuts. But I bought it. I paid 40 shekel for, I think it's like 10 or 12 chocolates. I mean,
that first of all, I don't know if that's a big one. You can get them. They go on sale, the usual time, Rosh Hashanah and Hanukkah time for maybe the other kind of box for 20, 25. It's actually cheaper by the shuk, but that's
a smaller one. They had like a rectangular box, but I wanted the pyramid, to get the real experience. My wife thought it was for her, but I told her it was for me. She doesn't eat, she only eats Chalav Yisrael, so I myself eat OUD, so then she realized it wasn't for her.
You're fading out.
I'm fading out?
I hear you. Before you were fading out.
There's something wrong with your microphone, Rabbi.
You don't hear me clearly?
We hear you clearly, and then all of a sudden, your voice gets very soft, and I don't know why.
How often does that happen?
About once every 3 minutes.
I'll try to project my voice a little louder. I'm sitting pretty close to the laptop. Okay. We're on Daf Pei Vav Amud Beis and Pei Zayin Amud Aleph. 86B and 87A. I was told that I went a little too quick yesterday. So I just thought we'll talk about the sugya we talked about yesterday. I really read the entire sugya. I didn't know I was not allowed to read, but we basically read through the entire sugya, the entire topic of discussion. I wanted to do some Tosfosim today. To do some. Anyone like doing Tosfos?
Yeah.
Yeah, the real stuff, right? The real learning for the real learners, right? Tosfos.
That's right. You got it.
All right, so
As long as it's not a 2-page long. Sometimes the Tosfos can take up a whole page.
yeah, I'm not going to pick the long ones. I'm going to pick the short ones, and I'm going to offer you at the end my resolution of all the Tosfos question with one idea, which I began to talk about yesterday. But you'll tell me if you like my idea. We're going to start with the Tosfos on page Bava Beis 86b, the third to last Tosos on the page. It says Ma lahalan sumo lo. See that? It's
Got it.
all right. Phil, you want to read? You want to read the
Yeah.
Tosfos?
I'll read, and if I get stuck in a word, you'll translate for us. Mala holod sumalo.
Yes.
What here is suma not. The im toma. You're everybody with me? You with me?
Where is it in the Gomorrah?
In the Gomorrah.
It's in the Gomorrah.
After the Gomorrah stops, it's 2 lines down and 2 wide lines on the bottom.
Just the review, except for before we get into Tosfos, the Gomorrah at this point is saying that just like when it comes to Edom Zomimim, a summa is not part, can't be an Eid Zomim. Eid Zomim, again, to review, is somebody who offers testimony that's not true, tries to incriminate somebody else. And there's a certain way of making someone Eid Zomim, where the other witnesses come and say, you were with us at the time of your testimony. There's no way you could have testified against so-and-so person because you were with us. Imanu Ayisem, that's considered an Eid Zomim. The punishment for an Eid Zomim is that he gets the same punishment as he tried to incriminate someone else with. So the Gemara tries to learn, just like it says the word Einecha, just like it says the word Einecha by Eid Zomim, and a sumo is not fit to be an Eid Zomim. So too, because it can't be an Eid Zomim because it can't see. How could you testify if you can't see? So too, Einecha, when it says by Boshes, which is the topic of our Mishnah, when you embarrass somebody, so too, when it comes to Boshes, you can't be mechayev, you can't incriminate, you can't make a summa, a blind person, responsible to pay for that. That's what the Gemara is talking about. That's what the Gemara is, Mala Halan Sumalo, just like over there, when it comes to Eid Zomim, a summa can't be an Eid Zomim. So too, when it comes to the Chiv of Boshes, a summa can't be responsible for embarrassing somebody. That's what the Gemara says at this point. So now Phil is gonna read the Tosfos.
The im toma, and if you would say, I ma lahalan gazlanim va'avdim, and just like we're talking about navadim, robbers and servants, lo, it will also be true. Af gabi also boshet lipitro. The boshes he'd be putter from.
Right.
The chi
So,
tamer, if you
understand the question? What is Tosfos asking?
I think Tosfos is trying to spread it out. What's the big deal? What's so special about a summa? The same thing should apply to robbers and servants.
If robbers and servants, where they're puzzle for aid, then right? We know a Gazlan is puzzle for aid. Evid can't be a witness. So similarly, they should be putter from Boshes also. They should be exempt. We know that's not true. If you're a thief and you've stolen from somebody, you embarrass somebody, you're chayiv in Boshes, right? That's what Tosfos is bothered by, right?
Yeah, that's a question. Why not?
Yeah, the question, right? Good. Okay, continue.
Okay, then the chi toma. That's if and that's the chi toma. That's not saying. If you would say, and similarly, you say.
If you'll say,
And if
He's
you say,
he's introducing a possible resolution to his question.
Isha Tochiach, a woman would prove it, the Pasul Edis, because she's also puzzled for Edis. The Chayav, the Bosh Pasul, and she would be Chayav in Boshes. The Ksiv, because it says, the Chazika, the Muboshava, that she, if she, grabs, so to speak, or damages, Mibosha, in his whatchamacallit, his
Genitals, his private part.
his private parts. Basically, that's the whole issue about the wife who comes along and is trying to save her husband, and she grabs they're two fighting, and she comes around and grabs the privates of the guy who her husband is fighting with, and she'd be responsible for the boshus that she caused that guy. Beam came so sumanami, which should be true for a blind person also. Lo ati. Shouldn't that come to it also?
Right. If you were saying that, so we're saying, so Tosin tries to say, maybe you'll say that we have a proof from somewhere. We know by a woman is not good for Eidah. She can't be a witness in court. But we know from the Torah that she's obligated to pay for Boshes, because the Torah talks about specifically Mabushav. It refers to his private parts as Mabushav, embarrassing area. And we know that she's responsible for that. So you see from a woman that even though you're puzzled for Eidah, she's chayav in Boshes. So why don't I say the same thing by Eidim? Why is our Gomorrah learning? By Suma, why don't I say the same by a blind person? A blind person also, right? We should learn from a woman that even though you're puzzled for Eidos, you should be chayav in Boshes. So how could our Gomorrah learn that a Suma is pater in Boshes? Understand the question? I mean, he tries to offer an answer to this question, and then he rejects that answer.
I don't get the connection between the question and the first answer, because the question seems to be talking about robbers and servants.
Yeah, that's the question. The question
The
is,
second part seems to be talking about the woman.
right? That's the challenge on the question. If you would say, well, why don't we say it doesn't work for servants and robbers because they should be pasavedas? But then you say, wait a second, that can't be because a woman also is pasavedas, but she is chayiv in boshes, because we see from the pasuk about her intervening in the fight between her husband and another guy and her grabbing the private parts. So she is responsible for boshes. So even though she's patalanesis, so you can't say patalanesis is enough to disqualify you from getting boshes.
What does that have to do with the servant and the robber?
They're patalanesis.
Yeah.
And then
And
they're also
are they responsible for humiliation?
for humiliation, a possible aid.
That's what those suggest. I'd say
Why not?
we don't know. It seems from our Gomorrah they should be exempt from Boshes. We know that's not true. Those assume it's not true. It's very hard to say that an Evet or a Gazlan is exempt from Boshes. We never found it anywhere. We don't,
So what he's saying is, if you're going to say a blind person is exempt from Boshes, you should also say a thief and a servant is exempt.
Right. That's his question.
That's
Doesn't
the
make any
question.
sense.
The answer is, let's look at a woman. She's
He
also
didn't give an answer yet. He tried to bring a proof that maybe you'll say no, that the reason a Gazlan and an Evet, a thief and a servant are exempt, are chayiv and boshes, is because we learn from a woman. A woman, she can't be an age, she can't be a witness, but she's chayiv and boshes. How do you know she's chayiv and boshes? Because the Torah says, and it says that she's chayiv. The Gemara says you have to cut off her hand, whatever that means, but the Torah says that. But you see, she's responsible for it. So we should learn from a woman, even though you're not fit to be a witness, you're still chayiv and boshes. But then Tosa says, if that's the answer to my question, I have a further question, meaning, so then why don't we extend that? We extend what we learned from, even though our Gomorrah seems to say that someone who is puzzle for Eidos should be Potter and Boshas, why don't we learn for a Sumo also, a blind person, that should at least deflect our Gomorrah's proof that a Sumo is Potter and Boshas, because we should learn from Isha, just like we learned by Gazan and Evid, that you're Chayiv and Boshas, even though you're not good for an aid. So therefore, even though a Sumo can't be a witness, but they should be Chayiv and Boshas. Our Gemara says Potter and Boshas.
When it says Isha Tochiach,
Right. She should be a proof.
what is it that the Isha is proving?
She's proving that you can have Boshas while still being pastophorus.
But we don't need her to prove that. We just established that by the thief and the servant. So why do we need a third proof?
It's not explicit in the Torah that a Gazlan or Evid is. I mean, Tosa assumes probably they're going to be Chayiv and Boshas, but it's not clear. It's not as clear as by a woman. A woman actually has in the Torah. That's clearer. That's the clearest proof that you can be puzzle for Eidos and Chayiv and Boshas.
So don't mention the thief and the servant. Just mention the woman. Why are you mentioning all three?
You're right. You don't have to. Tosa goes through what he's thinking. He's going
I'm
through.
troubled by the fact that it says ki tema. If you'll say, that seems to imply that you're somehow responding to the point about the thief and the servant with the woman, but you're not responding to it. You're just giving a third case. That's what's bothering me.
He's responding to it. He's offering a solution.
He's
offering a solution. There's a concept in the Torah called mamatzinu, or binyan av, meaning if we find one case to be similar, so then like similar cases, we can extend that law to other cases. So Tosfos starts off with the more common cases of a Gazlan or an Evid, and then he says, wait, we have actually in the Torah proof that you could be apostle for Eidos, but you could be Chayiv and Boshas. Explicitly it says in the Torah, so just like over there, we see that's the case. So too by Gazlan or Evid, we see the case. Tosfos says, oh, we have a resolution. That's the resolution, right? We look Gazlan and Evid. We learn from woman. But then Tosfos says, if we learn from women, so why don't we extend woman also to Summa, to a blind person also? Let's read the end of the Tosfos, and we'll try to summarize it afterwards. Okay, let's see what his answer is. Phil, you want to continue?
The VA Shlomo?
Yeah.
That you know, to me, when you have a VA Shlomo, that's not a. That means there are some that say it's not necessarily. There are some that say it's not everybody who says.
I think Yesh Lomar usually we translate it as Tosfos answers.
Okay. The Kavan, the Einecha, since okay, we have that your eyes shall see your eyes. We have the that you saw with your eyes. Einecha Gamar. That completes it. Even though the Einecha a beit din, that in your eyes goes to beit din. Okay, we're dealing with going to beit din. Svara, it's a logical conclusion. The Inyan Devar Hatului Ria neat name with a Gezer Shava. Okay.
Understand what he's saying? Phil, you understand what it's saying?
I'm trying, let me just go quickly. Let me think about it. It's a conclusion that in a matter of a thing that's depending on a bria. Now, bria is though means a healthy person, not an unhealthy person. It's given. Gives the Gezerah Shava. I'm not sure what depends on the bria.
Not bria, beri'ia.
See. Okay, biri'i. See. It depends on the thing depends on sight. It was given Gezerah Shava. Okay, so that this Gezerah Shava about enecha, both cases had to do with sight. That the first site was with the Adam Zomim. That was one site. And what was the second site with the two things?
Summa, it says enecha.
Same Sumer, it says enecha.
What's the second to the last word in the Tosfos?
Boshes. By Boshes is enecha.
Ni-
What?
Nisna.
Nitna Gezerah Shava.
It gives the Gezerah
Nisna
Shava.
means
Nisan gives. It gives. Retain.
he gives.
It gives us.
It's saying the Gezerah Shava is learned.
It's taught like a Tana.
Not exactly that. Nitna Gezerah Shava means, it literally means to give, but the Gezerah Shava is given over. The tradition, Gezerah Shavas are given over from generation to generation. It was given over with the intent of only applying it to things that are dependent on your eyesight. Because we're learning from Adam Zomim, and the word that used the Gezerah Shava from, that the common word between the two psukim is einecha, is your sight. So therefore, it says einecha by Adam Zomim, and it says einecha by Boshas. So therefore, learn that it's only talking about something that has to do with sight. For example, being blind. Just like a blind person can't be a witness, he also is not responsible for embarrassing someone for boshas. So those is answering, he's saying a gazlan, back to original question, a gazlan or an eved, even though those people are puzzle for edus, they're not puzzle for edus because of their sight. They're puzzle for edus for a different reason, because either a gazlan is called a rasha in the Torah, or an eved is puzzle for edus because he's not considered a bar Yisrael. He's not considered a full-fledged Jew. Nevid Knaini we're talking about. He's not considered a full-fledged Jew. He has halachas similar to a woman. A woman can't give edus also because she's not a man. It says in the word Torah, ish, not isha. But ish gives witness testimony, not a woman. Anyway, the point is that the Gezerah Shava is based on the word einecha, which literally means your sight. So it follows that the Gezerah Shava only applicable to things that have to do with sight, which is being blind. So only when it comes to being blind, if you're can't be an aid, you're also pater in boshas. But for things being a gazlan or an eved, right? Even though you're pater in, you can't be an aid, you're exempt, you're not allowed to be a witness. You would still be chayiv in boshas. Make sense to you, Phil?
Well, he's really only the enecha only applies because it's a sight thing. Only because it's enecha.
Exactly. It's the word. We're focusing on the word the Gezerah Shava uses. Usually Gezerah Shavas, we don't always pay attention so much to the actual word as having a halachic ramification on the actual halacha. It's just a method of connecting psukim. Just like the law, one law applies over here, the law applies over here. Tosfos is saying that I guess sometimes also we're interested in what the word is. The word that they're using to connect the two psukim is something that has to do with eyesight. So it's logical to assume that the Gezerah Shava only applies to a disqualification of eyesight, not a disqualification of thievery or servitude. All right, I see that no one's fault. Anyone understand with this Tosfos?
I'm a little confused about some terminology here. It says Kevan to Inyan in Einecha gamar. What is the word gamar doing in there? What is that telling us? What?
Gemar means to learn. Gemar is we learn the Gzeira Shava. It was
Okay,
taught.
so since we learn eyes, even though that eyes, and now it says a based in. What's that doing there?
That's something else. We'll leave that out for now. He's just saying the word Einecha, we're using it, and Tos's answer is using it to mean eyesight. The literal, if you look in the pasuk, when it talks about Edom Zomim, Einecha doesn't literally talk about your eyesight. It means it's a reference to Basin, that Basin has oversight of what's going on. They have jurisdiction. It's not really reference to eyesight, which would detract from his answer. He still says that, like the Gemara says, "Ein mikra yosei midei pshuto," that we take the literal sense of the word also, and the word also, einecha, is your eyes literally. So it's a reference to your eyesight. The Gemara Gzeira Shava was only learned regarding eyesight, regarding something that relates to seeing, which is a summa, a blind person.
Basically, what he's saying is we can't use logic from a servant or a thief or a woman to understand the blind person vis-a-vis humiliation. Therefore, we have to rely on the Gzeira Shava to understand how what the blind person's halacha is.
Yeah, because of the Gzeira Shava, because the word it chooses for the Gzeira Shava, therefore we know to only include a blind person, not to include a Gazlan or an Isha or an Eved as being exempt from Boshas. It only refers to a Summa. You understand this at all, Roy, or you're not with us?
Just writing this down, and it refers to. So, I'm a bit lost, but that's me.
For the purpose of today's share, I just want to really just focus on the question, because I'm going to give a different resolution than Tosfos. And the importance is to have the question. The question is, why don't we extend the Gzeira Shava to a Gazan or to an Eved or to an Isha? That's the question that Tosfos has, and he's forced to give an answer. Whatever that answer is, it's answer. I want to focus on one more Tosfos.
Well, what's the answer? I don't think he answered that. He just said that we
did answer his question. He answered his question. He said the Gzeira Shava is a necha. It's a reference to your eyesight, to seeing, and therefore we only learn the Gzeira Shava to exempt someone from Boshet if you have a psul of edus, which is dependent on your eyesight. For example, a summa. Gazlan or an Eved has nothing to do with their eyesight. The reason a Gazlan is exempt from giving testimony it's not disqualified from giving testimony is because Torah says you can't use a Russia as an aid, as a witness. An Eved is treated like a woman. A woman, Torah says ish ki ya'id or something like that. The Gemara says ish velo isha. A man can give testimony. A woman is not fit for giving testimony in a Jewish court. The only one whose testimony revolves around the fact of eyesight is a summa, is a blind person, because he can't see. Can't see, you can't give testimony. All right, no one's following, huh?
No, I understand what you just said.
Understand? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to another Tosfos. On Daf Pei Zayin Amud Aleph, on the next Amud. The second Tosfos, it's really the first Tosfos. It's V'chein Hayar Rabbi Yehuda Potro Mikol Dinim Shabbatorah. you have the place on 87A? Towards the middle of the page, V'chein haya Rabbi Yehuda potro mikol dinim shebatorah.
I have it.
Hmm.
Okay, Roy, you want to read
No, where we are. Where is it?
on Pei Zayin Amud Aleph 87A?
Oh, I'm gonna actually see. Yeah.
Roy, we're talking about the Tosfos. I don't know if you can read the Tosfos.
Oh, it's a Tosafos. No.
He's
can't
not,
read.
Roy's
Maybe
not
you
a
want to do
Tosfos
it, Lou?
person.
Want to read?
Okay. V'chein haya Rebbe Yehuda potru mikol dinin shebet Torah. And therefore, it was that Rebbe Yehuda allowed or permitted all of the laws of the Torah.
Likewise, V'chein is likewise. Likewise, Rabbi Yehuda exempted a blind person from all the judgments of the Torah.
From all the judgments. Okay. Tema. It's a wonder. It's amazing. Im Cain, my ire de putter. If so, why do we see that he's exempt? That he exempts Rebbe Yehuda exempts Baboshes from humiliation. Le'ayil ulama li gezerah shava. That he exempts from Boshes above, and why do we need the gezerah shava? The enecha that eyes the near and it seems the Rebbe Yehuda she lebosh.
Lurie is a different. It's a
Rabbi
the
Yitzchak.
commentator. So Rabbi Yitzchak. He's a guy who he's just somebody he's quoting as a source, not Rabbi Yehuda. It's not in the Gemara.
Oh, the Re.
One of the
Reed.
Bali Tosfos.
Yeah,
one
one
of
of the
the-
Bali Tosfos.
It seems that
Why do we even need this Gezerah Shava? Because it seems to the Re, he has another reason here.
how about Judy? Yes. Why do we need the Gezerah Shava of eyes? And it appears to the Re Shele Besof Chazar Bo, that in the end it returns to it. Rebbe
Tracks
Yehuda,
it basically. He goes back in his mind.
Read it. I went back on what he said.
who did?
Rabbi Yehuda.
Rabbi Yehuda.
Oh, it seems to the Re that Rebbe Yehuda went back on what he said. Mima she haya potro, from what that he was exempt. Miboshes, from humiliation. Levad, alone. Kishematza, that like we find derasha by a Rasha,
Drasha.
but drasha, that we find a drasha lepotro to exempt me maisa.
Misa from death.
Memisa, to exempt from death, vigalus and exile,
That's his first answer. He's gonna give two answers. You understand his first answer? You understand the question? The question he's asking is that this brisa on Pei Zayin Amud Aleph 87a the Gemara brings another brisa, and it says Rabbi Yehuda, not only does he exempt a blind person from Misa and Galus and all the things and Boshas, like you mentioned, he also exempts him Chol Din and Shabbat Torah. Any judgment in the Torah is exempted for, including anything, any monetary, capital punishment, things like that, including karbanos and things like that, presumably. He's exempt from. So Toz is asking, once we already know this, the later Gemara in Pei Zayin of a Brisa, which says that, I don't need any more. What Rabbi Yehuda said on Pei Vavam and Bei is what he said earlier on 86b. I don't need that anymore. He learned that a summa is exempt from Boshes. Boshes is a type of din Shabbat Torah. It's a type of judgment in the Torah. And he learns that because he can't be a witness from Edom Zomim, because he can't be a witness, so too he can't be chayiv in Boshes. Why do you have to tell me that whole Gzera Shava? It's unnecessary. Once we already know that Yehuda exempts him from all the mishpatim in the Torah and even brings a pasuk for that. He brings a pasuk from that. Right? He says a pasuk, V'shafto Eida ben Amako ben Agol Adam al Mishpatim Ha'ela. Kol she'yesho Amako v'Agol Adam yesho Mishpatim. Kol she'ena b'Amako v'Agol Adam ena b'Mishpatim. He says he's not included in Galus or Misa. So he's not included in any judgments in the Torah. He's excluded from all of them. Once he's excluded from all of them, I don't need any more of the Gzera Shava. Does that question make sense to anybody?
Yes.
You understand the question. Now, the answer he gives is really, you're right. It's a good question. And it comes out that the Gemara was just giving his whole thought process. First, Rabbi Yehuda learned that Einecha. Once he came to another drasha, like on Daf Pei Zayin Amid Aleph, the Shaftu Aida, then he no longer needs Einecha. Meaning, basically, it was a good question. The first part is really just his Havamina, what he originally thought. And then once he has the second pasuk, you're right. So I was saying, you're right. You don't need the first pasuk anymore. That makes sense?
Yeah.
I want to just leave off, we'll finish today, just give an inch. I started talking about this yesterday, that it's not so clear from the Gomorrah, like we said yesterday, Summa Ein Lo Boshes. That's the big introduction of the Gomorrah, that the Gomorrah says our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says a Summa doesn't have Boshes. So what Rashi and Tosfos explain, Summa Ein Lo Boshes means a Summa is exempt if he embarrasses somebody. If the Summa were to embarrass somebody, he's exempt from payment. But I said that really the simple explanation of the word Summa Ein Lo Boshes is that if you embarrass a Summa, then you're not responsible for paying. A Summa Ein Lo Boshes, literally the words mean a blind person doesn't have embarrassment. A blind person doesn't get embarrassed like a regular person. I wanted to offer also, because the Gemara says in other places, a blind person is like he's dead. He can't really, to a certain extent, I think it's like peer pressure and fitting in society. If you're already a blind person, you're not already 100% in society, and people embarrass you. It's not the same level of embarrassment, if any embarrassment at all, as a regular person would have. I wanted to answer Tosfos' both of these questions with this idea that to answer, we'll start with the second question of Tosfos we just did on Pei Zayin and Aleph. It's very understandable. The first Einecha, what was that talking about? It wasn't talking about a Summa who embarrasses somebody else. It was talking about if somebody embarrasses a Summa. That's the Gemara of Einecha. Einecha, according to Rabbi Yehuda, learns from that Gemara, Einecha, Zomim, that if an aid Zomim, just like an aid Zomim, if he were to give Eidos against a blind person, he wouldn't be responsible. So too, if someone is Mavayesh, someone embarrasses a blind person, he also would not be responsible, because Summa Ein Lo Boshes, like Rabbi Yehuda says. The Gomorrah, the Brisa on Daf Pei Zayin Amid Aleph, is a totally different drasha. It's like what we originally thought, what Rashi and Tosfos thought. That drasha is talking about the opposite case, where Suma embarrasses somebody else. And that's where that pasuk v'shafta wa'ida and makal gudam, that's actually sounds like that. V'chein haya potro, he would exempt who? The Suma, he would exempt the Suma mikol dinim shebatorah, not the person who embarrassed the Suma or injured the Suma. The Suma himself, if the blind person damages somebody else, or he kills somebody else, or does anything else, he's exempt. So there are two different laws over here. The first Daf Pei Vav Amud Beis was talking about if someone embarrasses the Suma, that the person who embarrasses the Suma is exempt from Boshes. And on Pei Zayin and Aleph, it's talking about where the Suma is the one who embarrasses somebody else or hurts somebody else or and kills somebody else, then he is exempt. We call dinim shebatorah. That would answer Tos's question because they're talking about two totally different things. And that would also answer Tos's first question. Tos's on Pei Vav Amud Beis, he asked a question. He says, just like we learned that anyone who Suma, he can't be a witness, so he can't be chayiv in Boshas, right? So what about Gazlanim and Avadim? What about thieves also? They're also Eidim. But the idea is that according to the Gomorrah and Pei Vav Amud Beis, we weren't talking about a Suma who embarrasses somebody else. We're talking about someone who embarrasses the Suma. So the Gzera Shava is not talking about. It wasn't saying. It's saying an Eid Zomim, just like he's not chayav when he testifies against the Suma. So too, anyone who is mavayish a Suma also is not. But it wasn't saying that a Suma is pasal le'edas. We weren't talking about the Suma being pasal le'edas. We're talking about an Eid Zomim being giving testimony. So there's no reason to compare a Gazlan or Avadim. We weren't talking about the witness. We were talking about the Suma is not the witness. The Suma is the person who is injured by who was incriminated by the witness. He's not the witness anymore. Once he's not the witness anymore, so it's not relevant to talk about that Gazlanim or Avadim or Isha can't be witnesses. It's not relevant to talk about that anymore because we weren't talking about the witness. We're talking about someone who testifies against a Suma. You hear?
Very interesting.
Yes, thank you.
You like that? That's my own. You can write it down.
You did.
I'll write it in the margin.
Write in the margin, write a sefer. I'm publishing a sefer.
I just wrote it down now.
Right.
All right, our time's up. Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay, great. All right. So what's the procedure for tomorrow? We do tomorrow? We don't do tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow we meet at 10:30 and we just have one class for an hour and it's a Pelagoics.
Fine. Sounds good. All right. Have a good day, everybody. Enjoyable learning with you.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
Bye for now. Thank you. Bye.